Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, good evening, at least to those of you on the other side of the world. For those of you in San Diego, good late afternoon. Let me just ask, by raise of hands, is it anybody's first time with us tonight? Oh, wow, okay. Bruchim habayim. Welcome to Shiviti at Kehillat Shaar HaShamayim. I'm very happy to have you with us here. And I'm going to disappoint you already at the beginning of the shiur. So here's the disappointment. What is it? We are of the opinion that since the revelation on Mount Sinai, no other Torah has been given to the Jewish people. I know it's boring and not as exciting. Our opinion is quite basic, and that is there was a Torah given on Mount Sinai. That Torah was interpreted by our rabbis of the Mishnah and the Talmud, codified by Rabbeinu HaRambam, and standardized for the world by Maran, Shulchan, Aruch, Yosef, Karo. I'm going to explain more of that. I want to say more of that a little bit later. But for right now, what I can tell you is that unlike the other A, B, C, D kosher organizations of the world, who every year seem to have a new revelation on Mount Sinai, the one boring thing about our Bet Midrash is we're boring people. We've been doing the same thing for almost 2,000 years, and we haven't really changed much. And that being the case, we plan to make sure that tonight's shiur will be repetitive. Whatever you learned last year should be the same thing that you learned this year. But at the same time, it also should be new and fresh. That way, whatever you don't remember from last year, or whatever is new that comes up this year, that we will bring it up. But hopefully, none of the major rules have changed, because as I said, there has been no other major revelation on Har Sinai. And that being said, maybe one more note, and that is that for those of you who are with us on Zoom, I really appreciate seeing your faces. I appreciate the people with their cameras on. Those of you who aren't able to, I completely understand. For those who wish to ask questions, two things. Number one, I can't, you know our Bet Midrash, you are actually on a screen all the way on the other side of the room from me. So I cannot actually read what anybody's going to write in the chat boxes. But if you have a question that you need to ask, there are two ways to do it. Either you can unmute yourself and ask the question. And that is if there's a pressing question that you really can't understand the next part of the shiur, and therefore you really need to know the answer now. If there are other things that you want the answers to, my commitment to you tonight is that at the end of this shiur, which is not going to be the shortest class that I ever give, and for those of you who've been in my classes, they're not short anyways, but at the end of this shiur, I will stay here for as late as you need, hours and hours and hours, to answer any question you might have. So if the question is not relevant directly to the conversation at hand, and you are able to wait until the end, just wait, unmute yourself. I'm going to be here the whole night. For those of you who otherwise are going to send questions in the middle of the show, I ask instead of typing them, you just unmute yourself and ask them that way. And if I'm going to continue my introduction, let me introduce one more thing. There's a regular chevra here that are part of our shiurim the whole year. I want to remind everybody that though the topic of kashrut, of Pesach, is important, it's not the most important topic that sits in my heart the whole year. Somehow I became known in some worlds as the person who helps people with the kashrut of Pesach. And I'm happy to do that. But our Bet Midrash is built on a much larger philosophy of our Chachamim. And that Bet Midrash has shiurim the whole entire week, myself, the Rabbanit, other Talmidei Chachamim that are part of our Kehillah. And if you ever want to join us, don't just do it tonight on a random Wednesday night. Wednesday night is the only night we don't have classes. But on any other day of the week, we would love to welcome you back here for a regular learning experience. And I think that maybe it will make a lot of sense. That the framework in which tonight's shiur was born really comes out of the years and years and years of our regular members and participants studying Torah with us. And like Har Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not charge us anything for the giving of the Torah. And therefore our Bet Midrash is absolutely built on the premise that no one should have to pay to study Torah. And so everybody here is invited always, all the time, to everything that we do that involves learning Torah, free of charge the whole entire year. That being said, let's get into the shiur tonight. I'm going to give you a brief introduction of what it is that we hope to accomplish tonight, what we're not going to accomplish tonight, and then B'ezrat Hashem, let's start accomplishing tonight. I hope that by the end of today's shiur, you will feel confident and comfortable knowing everything that you need in order to have not just a Pesach that is kasher, but a Pesach that is happy. We wish people Chag kasher v'sameach, a happy and kasher Pesach, and I want you to have both. It should be 100% kasher, at the same time being 100% happy. And that is something that most of the time people have a difficult time balancing. They either go down the side of too happy and therefore not kasher, or they go down the side of too kasher and then definitely not happy. Our rabbis instituted that we begin the search for Chametz the night before Pesach. That means that if next Wednesday night is the Seder, our rabbis decided that the best time to make your house ready for Pesach is going to be on Tuesday night. And somehow in the Jewish community, already on Purim, when we deliver Mishloach Manot, one person to the other, oh, don't bring it to my house. My house is already kosher for Pesach. Why on earth is your house kosher for Pesach a month before Pesach? Why is it that you're stressing on Purim about the crumbs that are going to be in your house in a month from now? How edible are the crumbs that are on Purim going to be on Pesach? And if I tell you that our rabbis instituted that only a night before Pesach, one has to begin the search for Pesach, then maybe we have to understand that what people are looking for and what people think they need to be looking for are completely different things than what our rabbis had in mind. More than that, our rabbis are very clear that if you were to take a loaf of bread, let's say a challah from last week that's been sitting out on your counter and has dried up, and you take that loaf of bread and you crumble it into pieces, and you start dancing around your house. I don't know, whatever your favorite song is. Hopefully it's not Hava Nagila, but dance Hava Nagila. Then throw around the crumbs all over your house, everywhere you can possibly think of putting crumbs, so that you are walking on crumbs. Your house is 100% kasher for Pesach. And if you weren't taught that, or you don't know why it is that that is the case, then that is what tonight's shiur is for. And if you're looking for the imaginary breadcrumbs inside of the orange juice or the water bottles or the milk or the decaf coffee or whatever they decided this year on the new Mount Sinai convention that you're not allowed to have, so then you are in the right place. Because tonight, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to start from the beginning and end at the end. And by then, hopefully all of halakha will be spread out before you in a clear way that is very happy and very kasher. For those who don't know, we have two audiences right now. There's the people who are here in person and those that are here online. Estelle, do me a favor, the door, only because the sun shines on it and it's right into my face. That, like that. Thank you. Sorry. But if you want to be cold, right here under the air conditioning. Let's take it from the top. For those of you who don't have my book, Kehillat Shaar HaShamayim Pesach, it needs an update, so we need to fix that. But B'ezrat Hashem, one book at a time. Too many books in my head right now. But for right now, that book is in general where I'm going to pull most of my information from. If you want to review any of this afterwards, you're welcome to go look in the book, and hopefully what I tell you here should match what is written there. So my two disclaimers that come from Yehi Shalom. Number one, my book was called Yehi Shalom, named after me. Yehi is my name, Yonatan Yaakov Halevy. And the other one is my father's name. It's important for me to mention that tonight's shiur is sponsored by Alan and Dina Sigmund of Florida. Thank you so much for that. My father should live and be well. His name is Shalom. Shalom means peace. Yehi means there should be peace. Let there be peace. The whole purpose of these halachot that we're going to study tonight is to make peace in the world. I have zero desire, not half, zero desire in my life to fight with anybody. That's why we have our own Shiviti forum, we have our own Bet Midrash. I'm not looking to change what anybody else in the world does. If those guys want to look for Chametz on top of Mount Everest, if those guys want to burn their wigs, whatever they want to do, they can do whatever they want. But in our Bet Midrash, my job is to maintain sanity here, in our community. And so, rule number one, anything that I say here is intended for people that are here, and for people who consider me to be their rabbi. If you have somebody else who's your rabbi, somebody else you learn Torah from, somebody else's community that you live in, I didn't come to make problems for that person. I have no desire to make a problem for another rabbi who's sitting somewhere else. And if you live in a community of people that you, for whatever reason, are not able to get along with or study Torah with, then maybe it's time to look into another community where you fit into. But I'm not here to support any machlokot, especially not against any other Talmidei Chachamim. That being said, the second half of this. I do have a way of speaking, which is full of conviction. I inherited that way of speaking from my teacher. Everything who you're learning from me tonight, you're really learning from him. And that being said, people who have conviction sometimes speak in a way that may seem absolute or full of just that, conviction. And I do have conviction. I believe that everybody should have conviction in their path. And I believe wholeheartedly in what it is that we do. My Bet Midrash is made up of all kinds of people. By the way, not just Sephardim and Ashkenazim, not just people use the word Orthodox or observant or not, otherwise not. Yeah, my Bet Midrash is made up of people that are Jewish, people that are not Jewish, people that are from across all the rainbow of colors that exist in the world. There is no part of me that ever pits Am Yisrael against Am Yisrael. Never. It happens to be that my bias is I'm a Sephardic rabbi who was trained in a tradition of Sephardic Chachamim. Our approach to the holiday and halakha in general is very different than what you might hear somewhere else. And just because I am proud and speak with conviction about that, doesn't mean that I'm here to disparage anybody else. If you are sitting here and you are in this Bet Midrash, you are not an other. You're not someone else. I'm speaking to you. Anything we say here, you can do also. If there's somebody that I'm criticizing, it's nobody here. It's nobody who's here in this kehillah. And therefore, I'm not splitting us, not based on Sephardim or Ashkenazim, rather based on those who care about the truth and those who I think maybe didn't find the truth yet. So, that being said, let's learn halakha. Tell me about the Shulchan Aruch, for those of you in my Sunday morning class. We went through the entire history of the evolution of the Torah, from the Tanakh to the Mishnah to the Talmud to the Rambam, Shulchan Aruch, all the way until today. My frame of reference is that the Torah is the only Torah given on Har Sinai. There's only one. There's no New Testament, there's no Old Testament, there's no Quran, there is no Book of Mormon. They exist, but they're not part of my tradition. We have one Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, otherwise known by us as the Mikra. The next most important thing is that I believe wholeheartedly that our Torah was explained to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai. And Moshe Rabbeinu transmitted those teachings to our rabbis who were his students, Yehoshua. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, Yehoshua la uzkenim misaruha l'anshei knesset hagedola. We have a whole list of tradition. Very good. We have our Chachamim. From that assembly of Chachamim who gave us the Mishnah and then the Talmud, these halachot were then regrouped for our community and codified by Rabbeinu Rambam in his 14-volume Mishneh Torah, the code of law according to the Rambam. Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo lived right around the expulsion of Spain. And for those who wish for a better history of Maran and the Shulchan Aruch, you're welcome to look at my series. I taught at the Chabura in London, a 3-part series about Maran and the acceptance of Maran. Did we accept Maran? Did we not accept Maran? Maran Rabbi Yosef Karo was the rabbi of the Sephardim who taught us in Tzfat. He wanted to unite the entire Jewish people into one group of people by establishing a Sanhedrin at the request of his rabbi and teacher, Mahari Berav. The dream was the Jewish people are thrown out of Spain. We're finally in the same place. We're living in Eretz Israel. We can establish a Sanhedrin. And they tried, and they failed. Why? Infighting in the Jewish people. That's usually what makes us fail. What ended up happening was Maran scrapped the idea of a Sanhedrin, and instead he made a miniature Sanhedrin in his mind. He took all the books of halakha that existed before him, and he began to weigh the opinions of the different Chachamim. I wrote an introduction to this book by my dear friend Jackson Gardner. He wrote a book called Understanding Halakha. I wrote a 40-page introduction or something like that inside of here, all about the methodology of halakha, and the Shulchan Aruch printed by our friends at Dot Press. You can get it on Amazon if you wanted to see that. In the Shulchan Aruch, Maran gave the Sephardim a code of law that spanned countries and borders. And let me explain to you why that's important. It's important that there is a Shulchan Aruch for a very simple reason. Imagine, like I told my chevra on the Sunday morning class, imagine you own a ship. And your ship is in France. And you're trying to send goods to Egypt. And I'm talking to you 300 years ago. You send your boat with merchandise to Egypt. On the way to Egypt, it has to stop places. One of those places it's going to stop, let's say, the port in Italy. It's going to stop at an Italian port. You own the ship. Somebody paid you to transport the merchandise. There's an insurance company that maybe insures your ship. Who knows? You dock your boat in the port of Italy. And all of a sudden, a fire breaks out on board the boat and everything inside of the boat. And the dock that your boat was on all burn down and find themselves in the bottom of the port that is in Italy. Your insurance company says, we're not covering you. Why are we not covering you? Because we only insure the boat. We think the fire broke out because of the port. The port says, maybe we'll insure your boat, but you burned down our dock. Who's going to pay for the dock? The guy in Egypt still has merchandise he didn't get. The one in France is still trying to send it. Who's going to pay for this mess? Or maybe better yet, 300 years ago, which court are you going to go to as the owner of this boat, or the owner of the port, or the owner of the merchandise in France, or the one who's waiting for the merchandise in Egypt? Where are you going to go to court? The only people on earth who would be able to handle this claim was the Sephardic nation in exile. Listen to me very carefully so I can explain this to you. The Sephardim, by accepting the rules of Maran, Rabbi Yosef, Karo on a national level, not just in the synagogue for Tevilat, what page you pray on, by the Sephardim accepting the Shulchan Aruch, it meant that the Bedin in France of Sephardim, I don't know, even if I'm speaking for sure not historically accurate, I chose a bad country. The Bedin in Spain, help me out here. The Bedin in Spain, the Bedin in Italy, the Bedin in Egypt. Maybe the boat was registered to Turkey, the Bedin in Turkey. They all are part of the same federal court system. That federal court system is the court system of the Jewish nation in exile. All of us who did business with each other, we're all Sephardim. We all agree that we follow the Shulchan Aruch. It doesn't matter to me if I'm part of the Sephardic nation stuck in the exile of Turkey, or I'm the Sephardic nation stuck in the exile of Egypt, or I'm the Sephardic nation stuck in the exile of Morocco, or you put in the name of the country. We all belong to the same nation, which follows the same court system. And when I come to collect my money in Livorno, Italy, or I come to collect my money in Madrid, in Spain, or I come to collect my money in Cairo, and I bring a paper from a Bedin in any one of those countries, the other Bedin will respect that order because we are all unified under the same code of law called the Shulchan Aruch. Not only is there no other group in the Jewish nation that can speak to that kind of organization, there is no other nation on earth that is able to pull off what we were able to pull off since the Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, I'm asking you not to get stuck on religious details, but to recognize that my push for a unification of Jewish law, one halakha for all Jewish people, the importance of that is very simple. Because I know that right now you don't own a boat, and you don't have merchandise, and you're not selling things to people in Egypt. I got it. I understand. What yes? You have a friend whose family came from Morocco, or whose family came from Turkey, or whose family wants to go back to Egypt, or whose family came from Poland or Russia or Libya or Lithuania or anywhere in the Jewish world. And their big question is, but can I eat at your house on Pesach? Can you eat in my house on Pesach? What's the bigger deal? The boat burning down with millions of dollars of inventory in Italy, or your kitchen on Pesach? Depends who you ask. If it's your mother whose house you're not eating in, who cares about the boat in Italy? But if we could agree on what to do with a boat that burns down in Italy because of the Shulchan Aruch, why can we not unite the Jewish people around the same observance of halakha? This is not unity for the sake of conformity. It's unity for the sake of being able to exist with each other. We all live in communities that are made up of Sephardim, of Ashkenazim, of Hasidim, of who knows what we're made up of. And how long can we keep pretending I have one Torah, you have another Torah, this one is the next Torah? And so people have ideas. Where should we go? What does the universal Torah look like? I don't know what to tell you. You want to plan the future? I'm with you. Maran wanted a Sanhedrin. I'll do it with you. But until you manage to get your Sanhedrin together, until then, let me go back to the one book we all agreed on. Let's go back to the Shulchan Aruch. Because even when Maran, Rabbi Yosef, Karo published the Shulchan Aruch, the reception he received in Ashkenaz, in Europe, was exceptionally warm. I wrote it in my book. The dozens of Ashkenazi Chachamim who accepted those rulings on themselves, even the Rama, Rabbi Moshe Isserlich, alav shalom. I went to his grave, and at his grave, I asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu to forgive me that I disagree with him so many times. Not me. I follow Maran. The Rama writes to Maran a letter. He says, anyone who argues with you, kicholek ala shechina, is like somebody who's arguing with God himself. And I came only to tell you what the customs in Europe were, what the minhagim of the Ashkenazim are. And the truth is that 90% of the time, Rama doesn't argue with Maran. He doesn't add a note. That's what Maran says. And the fact that you and I live in a generation today where we are so far removed from what halakha used to look like is why exactly we're in the situation we're in right now. There shouldn't be questions. So whose house can we eat? Whose food do we buy? What should we do? What happens if orange juice is squeezed in the same factory as a worker who eats a sandwich made out of bread? Because of that, you have to pay extra money to buy the orange juice with a special kosher symbol. Why? Because in that factory, they wear gloves. I don't know what's the difference between this factory and that factory. You think that's what it means? They bring matzot to the Tropicana factory? They have to wash their hands. However, if you're buying food from a factory where people don't wash their hands, please don't buy food from that place in the first place. What's the difference? I'll tell you the difference, very simple. This bottle of oranges costs $2.99, and that one costs $10.99. Now, I don't know if in the year 2026 there still are bottles of orange juice that cost $2.99, and probably everything in the world is now $6.99, but that means that the other one is $18.99. And for what? Because this one didn't breathe in the same factory, Chametz, so now you have to go out of your mind. Somebody asked me a question yesterday about ground beef. The ground beef doesn't say special kosher for Passover. Okay? So what? But it's ground beef. I heard the first time. What's special? They tell me that regular beef is, but ground beef, it's not okay. Why? I don't know why. But the guy whose brother owns a ground beef factory, I guess he likes to make sure that people buy the special kosher for Passover one. Now, this doesn't come out of cynicism. This comes from a place of, we have a Shulchan Aruch. Maran tells us what to do. And you decided now to violate federal Jewish law. And then, worse than that, what's my friend in Mexico's name? El Mencho. Mencho breaks the law. Yeah, he's dead already? They killed him? Alav shalom. They killed him already. What happened? But this guy, he's the new law. And if you don't listen to him, he kills you. But it's worse. And why it's worse? Because he thinks his law is better than the other law. These guys come around. It's not just they tell you, it would be better if you didn't buy A, B, C, D. No. Those of you that still buy Chametz water, all of you heretics, they tell you that you don't keep kosher anymore. And because you don't keep kosher, now we can't eat in your house anymore. We can't even go pray with you in the synagogue. How can I give you aleh? You mean you have a rabbi that says that water is not chametz? For sure, he's not a real rabbi. And then what are you left with? You're left with a whole world of, wow, even the water is chametz. Even the water. Now, how do you get to a place where water is chametz? It's unbelievable. So they'll do that. I'm telling you the premise. The premise is there is one Shulchan Aruch. Now, other people want to do things not written in Shulchan Aruch, that's fine. But tonight's shiur is going to be based out of Maran. Maran gave us a Shulchan Aruch. Our Batei Din around the world accepted it. I'm still old school. I'm still trying to follow what is written inside of Maran's Shulchan Aruch. And that being said, let's open up some halakha. Elchanan, are pigs kosher?
No,
What kind of pigs are kosher?
none. But if you're eating pig meat with milk, you're not a sort of what's it called? You're not breaking the law of
Meat and milk.
meat and milk, but you're only breaking the lead.
What do you say about a rabbi who stands up and says pigs are kosher? It's okay or it's not okay? Do I have to take his opinion into consideration?
No.
What if a rabbi tells you you're not allowed to eat any kind of chicken in the world, even if it's slaughtered kosher? I have to listen to him?
No.
Well, he said it. I have to listen to him? How do you know that? Talmud Yerushalmi says, just like it's forbidden to say that things that are impure are pure, it's forbidden to say that things that are pure are impure. It's the same thing. There's no difference for the one who says that pigs are kasher to the one that says chickens are not kasher. The one who tells you you can eat pig blood, the same thing as the one who tells you you're not allowed to drink water on Pesach. Understand the same thing. And the fact that we are so okay with people taking us in one direction, but not okay with the people that pull us in the other direction is a double standard. There's nothing like that. I was at a wedding recently, and I was sitting there at the wedding. I always have these minds when I go, but most of my life I stay inside of my kehillah, not because I'm a hermit. I'm just not brave enough like you to go hang out with the rest of the world. So I hide. I live. If I could live under a rock, maybe I would with you guys, but under a big rock. Instead, I look around and I say, well, if this wedding didn't have a mechitza by the dancing, let's say, how many of the rabbis that are sitting here, how many of them would be at this wedding? Probably nobody. Probably nobody. Good, but I'm talking now 2026. I always said there's a new Torah in Har Sinai. I want to ask the other question. Okay, well, I should push you then. If the wedding was not kasher, the food was not kasher, how many of the rabbis at the wedding would be at the wedding? Okay, let me ask you this question. If the food was too kasher, if the mechitza was too high, or even at the chuppah they had a mechitza down the middle between the bride and the groom, which rabbi would say, I'm not coming to the wedding because you guys are crazy? Yeah. That's the answer that I have for you. I live in a reality where as long as you push people to be crazy in one direction, then it's okay. But you push people to be normal in a different direction, it's not okay. The people that wouldn't go to the wedding that is not kasher will gladly go to the wedding that is too kasher. What is too kasher of a wedding? I was at a wedding in Yerushalayim. And they told me, this food, don't eat it. That's from the chief rabbinate. Eat it from that one. That's from the special kosher. I said, what's so special about the special? What's so special about the special kosher? Oh, this one is from Rabbi so-and-so. I know, but I want to know, aside from the name, Rabbi so-and-so. Because last time I was once in a place and I saw the guy who was putting the stickers on the kosher, super kosher. He didn't even keep kosher. He was just hired to hold the hologram sticker. What is it? What makes it special? He told him what's special? Here, when the Arab workers in the kitchen come for work, we make them do negelwasser. We make them do nitilat yadayim before they touch the food. And what Shulchan Aruch a Muslim man has to do nitilat yadayim before he touches your food? Poor guy. It's bad enough. He's in the kitchen working for around 12 hours a day. You also have to make him do our nitilat yadayim. That's what makes your food. Who says, you know what, it's enough. Enough is enough. Soon you're going to make the Muslim guy wear a tzitzit and a kippah, and poor guy, he's not going to be able to work anymore. But that's wow, that's so kosher. When do you say that's crazy? So yeah, that's where we come from. Chumrot, stringencies, as you call them. Our rabbis already told us the word for chumrah, for stringency, has the same root as the word for chamo, a donkey. There's a famous story about Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Chacham Obadiah Yosef used to like to tell the story. I think I even put it in my book somewhere. Yeah, I can read you a story. The donkey of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair was stolen by robbers. It was hidden for 3 days, during which he ate nothing. Why didn't this donkey eat? Because this donkey was a religious donkey. The fact that our rabbis are telling you a story about a religious donkey, you should understand already how they feel here. And it's a very religious one. The donkey of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, she never ate food that was stolen. It was just food that was kasher, food that was... So she wouldn't eat the food of the robbers because she assumed the food is stolen. So after 3 days, they figure, listen, if we're going to steal a donkey and the donkey is going to drop dead on us, we might as well not steal it. Let's send it back to the rabbi. They send it back to the rabbi, and the rabbi is sitting in his house, he's studying Torah, and from the window, he sees out in his field the donkey being released into the corner of his field. And he sees that she hasn't eaten in 3 days. And he tells his students, quick, go feed the donkey. And they run out to feed the donkey, and the donkey doesn't eat. And they're trying to feed it, the donkey won't eat. As they come back running to the rabbi, Rabbi, we're giving her food, the donkey's not eating the food. The rabbi says, tell me something. This food, did you take tithes from the food? Did you take the right amount off of the food? He said, no, but Rabbi, you taught us that food that is not sure, it's demai, whether it's tithed or not, human beings cannot eat it, but donkeys are allowed to eat it. He said, yeah, but what can you do? What can I do for this miserable creature? That she is very strict in halakha over herself. I mean, my donkey, she's very religious. She, when there's a safek in halakha, when there's a doubt, she's very strict. She's always errs on the side of caution. So she's going to drop dead. Go give her 100% kasher food. And Chacham Obadiah used to like to tell the story and say, what can I do about these chamorim that like to be strict on themselves? There are some donkeys in the world, they like to be strict. You're about to drop dead. How strict can you be? Comes Pesach. Someone told the story of Hanukkah is that the oil was only supposed to last for 1 day, lasted for 8 days. And the miracle of Pesach is the salary that was supposed to last for 30 days, it barely lasts for 8. It's the opposite miracles of each other. And that's something not normal. My first year as a rabbi in San Diego, I went here to a kosher store, and I saw on the shelf there was olive oil, a little bottle, like something like this, a small bottle. And it said on it, $46.99. $46.99. Like the chocolate chips I posted on the internet. People write, it's not true, you're slandering. It's not true. I have one in the store. I'll give you the address. My student, he lives in Nevada. He went to the store, and the kosher for Pesach chocolate chips are $18.99 a bag, 9 ounces. Now, aside from that, chocolate chips will kill you. Why? Between the palm oil and the cottonseed oil, and the fact that probably it never saw chocolate in its life, so probably not even. It's probably like fake cocoa, like what's fake cocoa? It's gonna be mud from charcoal. They put it, I don't know what they put it to make it look. For sure, he's gonna die from that, but more than he's gonna die from the $18.99 for a bag of chocolate chips. And no shame. I bought the same chocolate chips, Kashering LePesach. I bought 8 bags for $22. How could it be? How could it be? Lo yuman ki supa. How do we get there? How do we do those things? Now we're going to continue learning halakha. Before we get anywhere, before we talk, 13 major differences between Shulchan Aruch and everybody else on Pesach. And you should know these. Rule number 1, Chametz, reawakening. So here's a very simple halakha. Everybody knows that if pig falls into your chicken soup, a little piece of pig falls into your chicken soup is no longer kasher because it has pig inside of it. Unless, before that, Zev, unless before Batel B'Shir. Everybody got religious on me. How do you know if your chicken soup is kasher? If you could taste the pig. If you could taste the pig. Now, what's the problem? Can you try the chicken soup? No, why not? Because maybe you're going to taste the pig. So what do you do, Hannah? You ask the non-Jewish person if he could taste the soup. He's allowed to have pig. If he could taste the soup for you and tell you what kind of soup he thinks it is. Wow, that's a nice pig-chicken fusion. You cannot have that soup, okay? But if he tells you chicken soup, tastes like my grandma's chicken soup, say, does it taste at all like pig? No, you can have the chicken soup. Now, What's the problem? The problem is that some Jewish people either didn't have non-Jewish neighbors to ask that kind of question to, or worse, they didn't trust the non-Jewish people around them to give them an honest answer. The first group were our Chachamim. So our Chachamim said if you don't have a non-Jewish person to ask, you could do the following math. 1 out of 60. If it's nullified in a 1 to 60 mixture, 1 pig, 60 chicken, then you can assume that you don't taste the pig anymore. But what happens if you nullify 160 and you still taste the pig? Can you eat the chicken soup? No, for sure not. For sure not. But 160, that's the assumption. And 1 to 60, you for sure don't taste the pig. So the question that I said earlier doesn't matter. Now, what happens if the mixture is only 1 out of 40, but you don't taste the pig anymore? Can you eat the chicken soup if the non-Jewish guy says it's okay? Yes. Why? What's the word in Hebrew for that? The phrase is Tam elchanan. Now you can open the door before the sun was shining on it. Tam ke'ikav. The main halakha that we have here is that the taste is the most important rule. So if you don't taste the chicken soup, the pig in the chicken soup is fine. Good. So the Rama mentions maybe you have to go ask an expert non-Jew, like a chef or somebody who knows what he's talking about. Okay, fine. But what if you live in a place where you cannot trust the non-Jews because they like to feed you pigs? So says the Rama, we in our countries, we don't trust non-Jews at all. And we always go by the 160 rule. So one of the major differences, Sephardim and Ashkenazim, is that we trust the non-Jews to be honest with us. And the Ashkenazim don't. But Mori Harav always had a workaround. He said an Ashkenazi person can ask a Sephardic person to ask a non-Jewish person to taste the food. And then the Sephardic person can taste the food, and then the Ashkenazi guy can trust the Sephardic person. Now, if you already tell me the Ashkenazi guy doesn't trust the Sephardic person, then we're in big trouble. We're in major trouble. But for right now, that's the attitude. That being said, when you nullify something before Pesach, let's say there was some kind of chametz inside of your food. I'm sure you've heard the rule that chametz, even in 1,000, doesn't get nullified. You've heard this rule before? Yes. When is that rule true?
Only on Pesach.
Only, thank you, Sarit. Only on Pesach. Only when the nullification happened on Pesach. By the way, not even all of our rabbis agree to that rule. Some say it's like all the other prohibited things on the world. Fine, let's say we run with that rule. On Pesach, if chametz falls into your chicken soup, no matter how much chicken soup you have, if it's an ocean of chicken soup, you still cannot eat the chicken soup. Okay. But if the chametz falls into your soup before Pesach, are you allowed to eat the chicken soup on Pesach? Yes, because chametz before Pesach is nullified. Now let me ask you this question. Can you intentionally nullify chametz into your food before Pesach?
No.
I mean, let's ask you this. Are you intentionally allowed to put pig inside of your chicken soup less than 60? No, but I just lied to you. Tell me why those two cases are not comparable.
Because chametz is kosher throughout the year.
Who here ate chametz today? Yeah, well, but chametz is not allowed. Today, chametz is not prohibited. So the rule that you're not allowed to, that you don't intentionally nullify chametz, that only applies on Pesach. But today, you can put up to 1/60th of chametz inside of your food and eat that food on Pesach. Shalom al Yisrael. Where does that matter?
Even if you cook it for Pesach?
Yeah, b'chavana. You're making it for Pesach. It's not chametz. There's no chametz in it. The chametz is nullified. I can give you the most practical scenario, what I'm telling you. If you make all of your food in your chametz pots, pans, sinks, ovens, dishes, countertops, you didn't take any special care to remove chametz from your kitchen, like I do for the Kehillat every year. I made already all the food for Pesach. In my chametz, everything. I didn't clean my house for Pesach. All of that food, you're allowed to eat it on Pesach. Why?
But it doesn't mean that you, even if you did it, it doesn't mean that you intentionally would.
No. When I use a chametz pot, I am intentionally nullifying chametz on Pesach, before Pesach.
Yeah, but the assumption is that
No, listen. If I use a meat pot for milk, then really the food I make is not kasher because you can't intentionally use a meat pot for milk. But you can intentionally use a chametz pot for Pesach. I'm telling you why I'm telling you this. What happens if there was a breadcrumb left over from yesterday's schnitzel? Rachel, this will never happen in your house. That's why you don't understand. But let's say yesterday, there was I don't know my mother's house either. There was a breadcrumb from yesterday on the counter. And it got into the food you were making for Pesach. Now can you eat that food on a Seder night? Yes, because it was nullified before Pesach. By the way, even if you knew the breadcrumbs were on the counter, even if you knew they were there, I say, you know what? It's not enough. It's an insignificant amount of breadcrumbs compared to the 300 pieces of chicken I'm making for the Seder. I'm not making 300, someone says. You're allowed to do that. Lechatechila. Ideally, you can do that. The prohibition of Chametz on Pesach only begins then, not now. And I'm going to ask you, for those of you who like to comment on everything that I'm saying, please, I don't get Hasidim not right now. That everything.
Standing here, they said they have to boil your sugar, everything before Pesach because it's annulled.
Okay, good. Good. Now, I'm going to tell you like this, furthermore. You ready for the next part? Maybe now you'll begin to understand why we have a forum for almost 6,000 people of thousands of products that you can buy for Pesach. Did you check the factory? Did you check the... Of course I didn't check the factory. You think I'm flying all over the world to check the factory? It doesn't matter what's in the factory. It doesn't matter what went on the production line. None of those things matter. In your imagination, you assume that maybe there's going to be... Why do you assume? There's a rule in halakha that we are not machzikina leisura. We don't assume that things are bad. You always assume things are good. It's not just the Hasidic teaching, by the way. Always assume for the best. No, this is a halachic rule. The assumption is everything in front of me is kasher unless I know otherwise. So do you know that there's chametz in that factory? No, I don't know. Well, did you call and find out? Because until you call and find out that there's chametz in the factory, I have no legal halachic obligation to determine if there's chametz in the factory. More than that, let's say now you know there is chametz in the factory. I want you to taste those chocolate chips. How many of you can taste the chametz inside of the chocolate chips? Oh, so then it's already batel in the first place. So what are you asking me really? You're asking me to go out of my mind and to make sure that everything in the world has never even been, God forbid, without a mechitza, in the same room as chametz. I'm telling you, I'm not willing to be that crazy. Now here's the big caveat. So let's put the wrench in the machinery. I didn't tell you. Along comes the Rama. Now, there are people before him too, but the halakha for us, the Rama. The Rama says there is a law, the Rambam also mentions a law, called chozer v'ne'or. That chametz, it reawakens. What does it mean, reawakens? It nullified today. I've used my daughter's hairbrush today, and I am b'li'anara. So, I'm sure those guys who don't like me on YouTube are going to make some kind of clip out of that. It's okay. I have beautiful daughters, Baruch Hashem. HaKadosh should let them live and be well and grow up to be Talmidot Chachamim. So, I don't know what is going on here. I never should do it again. So, we are, I see like glowing in my head. Okay. We are in the following situation. The chametz was nullified in your chicken soup, okay? 100% your chicken soup is kasher. Can you eat it today? Can you eat your chicken soup today? Why? Because today you can eat chametz. What about at the Seder night? What about then?
No.
Maran said yes. Maran said yes. Hanan, you can help me out. It's on my glasses, that's why. So, sometimes the problems you see in the world, it's just because they're on your glasses. Not even the world's problem. It's your problem. So,
this term, chozer v'ne'or, is it an invention?
no. It's not a Ramaz version. No.
Where does this...
You can find it in the Talmud. It exists. Kayam Talmud, such a thing. Chametz reawakens. What does it mean reawaken? It was nullified until Pesach, but on Pesach, he jumps out of the pot of chicken soup and jumps back inside of it on Pesach, and now you cannot nullify it even in 1,000 of Pesach. Maran didn't accept this halakha. Maran says if it was nullified before Pesach, there's no acrobatics that happen on Pesach, and so a primary difference between us who follow Shulchan Aruch and those who follow the Rama is how careful we are going to be regarding the nullification of chametz on Pesach. You understand? And I'm going to agree with you. That's a major difference. And that's why thousands of kosher agencies around the world who make their livelihood for the whole year from this particular scenario of trying to figure out whether or not there is chametz in the factory's kitchen, in the cupboard, okay, for us, we don't care. Difference number 2, Maran writes, even preserved food items like meat, like cheese, like fish, even if there was no special care that was taken. So I'll give you an example. I went shopping for the Bet Knesset. We shop wholesale chickens for the Bet Knesset. I'll give you. Before Purim, the chickens that I bought were $3.49 a pound. That was the pound. Now, after Purim, the same exact chicken cost almost $4.50. So it went up $1 a pound for the chicken. What changed? Nothing. They put that special white paper on the shelf, the one they used to block the air vents in the refrigerator, and they put that there. Now this one is worth $1 more a pound. Now look, could be you buy 5 pounds of chicken, not be $5 more. What if you buy 250 pounds of chicken? What if you are feeding your in-laws so these things matter, and you think it's just the chicken? I went to go look in the liver. Save, you're so lucky that any of these things. I was looking at the liver. The liver before Pesach was $9.99 a pound. And those of you in New York, don't cry by our prices, okay? I saw now they're selling them by the half a pounds, but they're selling them at $14.99 a pound. Meaning it went up $5 a pound. Why? It's the same package from last week. But now it's Pesach. And now the Jewish people have no choice. They're stuck in the corner, and we're going to rip them out. That's why every year I tell people, go do your Pesach shopping before Purim. Because you'll get the discounted prices, and then you won't have to support the mafia on Pesach. Number 3, noten tam nivgam. There's a rule in halakha. The rule in halakha says that when something that is added to your food tastes bad, it's not a good flavor, then you don't want it in your food, and therefore you're allowed to eat the food even if the flavor there is not kasher. Give me an example.
You're eating, like they had the beer in Russia, that they coated it with pig fat so they could make it smoother and it wouldn't leak on the barrel.
Very good. Shulchan Aruch writes, very good. Kuf Yud, you go to buy vinegar from a non-Jewish store. They keep it in a barrel. And the barrel, they line the barrel. They smear the inside with pig fat. I don't know. I don't buy from such stores. Can you buy the vinegar inside of the barrel with the pig fat? Shulchan Aruch says, yes, of course. Which one of you wants pig fat flavored vinegar? And therefore, even if there's flavor, but if the flavor is a bad flavor, then you are allowed to eat that. That makes a huge difference because they tell me that in the machinery, they use some oils, and those oils are to grease the wheel that falls into the food. You think I want to eat machine oil? That fits in the food. That's a problem for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, why there's machine oil in my food. But for right now, for Pesach, it's not an issue. The Rama writes that in Ashkenaz, there were some people who were strict about even things that taste bad, only for Pesach. By Kashering utensils, I'll tell you another difference. Maybe in regards to kitniyot, we'll talk about that soon. The rest of these things are not relevant for right now. Maybe before we get ahead, let's now talk about Chametz. Can we define Chametz for us right now? Torah says that you are not allowed to own or consume Chametz or Seo. Chametz or Seo. Let's define each. What is Chametz? A traditional definition, because if we're going to go down the road of reinventing what is...
From the 5 grains.
Any one of the 5 grains. Okay, so what are the 5 grains?
Wheat, barley, spelt, oat, and rye, but some of them are not.
Let's just say that for sure I know wheat and barley are the 5 grains. Aside from that, I don't know what the rest of the 5 grains are. And with that, but Rabbi, it's oat. I'm not telling you that I don't know the list of the 5 grains that you read on the internet also. I'm telling you, I'm not clear about it. My dear friend Rabbi Yitzchak Verdugo, should live and be well, he wrote in his book a whole essay about oats. Not so simple that oats are permitted, not so simple that oats are prohibited. What I tell people is as follows. Don't eat oat chametz on Pesach, but do me a favor, for your seder, also do not eat oat matzot. Because in order to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, it has to be made of one of the 5 grains. What do I do if I cannot eat gluten? I will drop dead from an allergy if I eat gluten. Then you don't have to eat matzot. God did not ask you on this holiday to drop dead. But please, let's not pretend what is or what is not one of the 5 grains. So that being said, let's say wheat and barley. Wheat and barley, that water has come in contact to them, and in contemporary Judaism, we're going to say for 18 minutes. I'm sure those of you who are familiar with the sugyot know that probably 18 minutes is not the number, but let's run with it, okay? Water and flour have touched each other for 18 minutes. After that, it is considered chametz. What is chametz? What does the word mean? Why does chametz mean starting to rise? We have words in Hebrew for it.
Became sour.
It became sour, meaning the fermentation process has begun. It's a souring
It's
process.
like leavened bread or leavened.
Right. So now we have here chametz. What happens when chametz spoils? Meaning it gets so chametz that it's not edible the way that it is right now. That's called se'o. Eat with your sourdough starter. If you would just bake the starter, what would it taste like? Sour. People don't bake just the starter. They add it to another dough so that it rises. In people's head, this means yeast is chametz, but yeast is not chametz. The yeast that you and I know, what they call yeast in the store, our rabbis didn't even know of these things. They were using, it didn't exist. They were using a sour dough, and they would add it to a regular dough, and it would rise. And therefore, 2 things you're not allowed to own or eat on Pesach: chametz and se'o. What else are you not allowed to eat or own on Pesach? No, as I said, so that's
Whatever comes from.
that's it. If I were to make a list, my dear friend in Australia, Rabbi Shimon Edi, he makes a list every year of prohibited foods that you're not allowed to eat on Pesach. He has a long list and says on top chametz, and then that's it. You can't eat chametz. Aside from that, everything else you can eat. So now what happens? Corn and beans and rice and quinoa and potato starch. People have lists and lists. Mustard seeds and rice. They have lists. Tapioca starch and I can't keep track anymore. And so I don't know anymore what people consider to be called kitniyot. I don't know what that phrase is. But Ashkenazim have a custom, a very old custom, of not eating kitniyot on Pesach. Yes? And that means they call it legumes, but it's not a real word because kitniyot includes many more things than in English you would include in the category called legumes. Legumes. Thank you, Rabbi. Toda Rabba. Is coffee a bean? Okay, or what else? I had another bean. What did I tell you guys on Sunday? I gave a class on kitniyot on Sunday. Cocos are beans? What is a bean and not a bean? Why some beans? A fruit. It's a fruit. If we play this game, how many things are we going to exclude from the list of kitniyot? Is corn a bean? Are green beans beans?
No.
I don't know anymore what to include on the list, but I gave already enough shiurim in my life on kitniyot. Let's just say Ashkenazim have a custom. There's a word, a custom, nothing more than that. Not to eat rice or beans, and some maybe not corn on Pesach. And anybody who doesn't eat rice and beans and corn on Pesach, my very simple words to you are, in Yiddish we say mabruk, mazal tov, and you're not so special. So stop telling us about it. I don't want to hear about it. It's nice that you decided to add more things to the Torah in direct contradiction of the Torah. But it doesn't matter to anybody that you don't do it. You're not special kosher because you don't. It's just something your family chose not to eat for many, many years. Good. If there was actually a problem of chametz with kitniyot, then we wouldn't be allowed to eat them either. If there was a problem of, there's now something called gebrakt, matzah shiruyam. You can't let water touch the matzot. If there was a problem of chametz with liquids touching matzot, let me give you something you might not have known before. Lithuanian Jews wouldn't be allowed to eat it either. And Sephardic Jews wouldn't be allowed to eat it either. Because we're all not allowed to eat chametz on Pesach. So if there's something you don't eat, because maybe it's chametz, then also I'm not allowed to eat it. And if we eat it because it's not chametz, then you are also allowed to eat it. And if for whatever reason you have an emotional attachment to this, there's no mitzvah to eat beans on Pesach. But for the sake of all of our sanity, let's keep it at that. Rice, beans, corn. Let me ask you a question. derivatives of those rice, beans, and corn? Until when is it still going to be rice? Corn. Corn on the cob. Is that corn? Popcorn. Is it corn? Corn oil. Is it corn? Corn that is mixed into your food before Pesach and is less than half. That's what the Rama says. Rama says Ashkenazim can eat kitniyot on Pesach if they were nullified before Pesach and they make up less than 51% of the food. So now the corn syrup, the corn starch, the rice starch, the extract of, also those things you can't eat on Pesach. But if it was Chametz, you'd be allowed to eat it on Pesach. So why not the kitniyot? So again, the major difference of kitniyot, I respect. People don't, my mother's family doesn't eat kitniyot either. Wonderful. It doesn't make anybody special. Just keep it to yourself. But how much you're going to drive yourself crazy about it, that's already up to you. My brother, I don't know if he's in the shiur, when he got married to my sister-in-law, who's from the community of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein and Rabbi David Feinstein, my brother's father-in-law asked Rabbi David Feinstein, when I go to Ariel Halevy's house and he serves me rice and chicken in the same pan, can I eat the chicken? And Rabbi Feinstein told him, just pick up the chicken, scrape off the rice with your fork, and eat it. If rice was chametz, do you think you could do that on Pesach? And do you think there are any rabbis left, like Rabbi David Feinstein, who passed away recently, who would tell somebody that? Because if it was really a problem of chametz, none of us would be allowed to eat it. That's the bottom line. So I've already belabored the point. Now let me talk to you about your utensils. Now this is important. You okay? Yitzhak, are you okay? So, we spoke about nullification. We spoke about nullifying things intentionally. Oh, you brought the corn for that? Show me, Avino. No, I don't need to eat now. Like, eat corn on the cob in the middle of the class. My son brought me dinner because he knows I didn't. You see the corn?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
this is Ronit.
I know who you are. Ronit, shalom aleichem.
This may be an obvious question to everybody else, but for me, you said we're not supposed to eat. We know wheat and barley. So macaroni that is made with wheat, we don't eat that on Pesach. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
good question.
Okay.
Good question.
And so I would take that will go out of the house along with any.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. Very good. The corn here. Someone has a minhag not to eat this corn. Okay. Is the utensil now permissible for an Ashkenazi Jew to use on Pesach? This is where I want to. Let's pretend. Let's pretend it wasn't corn. Let's pretend it was pancakes. Hot pancakes put in the container. We have to go there now. Because really, you know that you can't eat chametz. You also know that you're allowed to eat kitniyot, or at least derivatives of. I didn't come here to give you chidushim in that regard. Now the question is, they tell me that chametz is hiding everywhere. Between the pigs that are hiding everywhere, the other thing that is hiding all over your house, inside of the cracks and the crevices, on the shelves of your refrigerator, in the light bulb of your freezer, and the racks of your oven, there are little evil chametz monsters. They are hiding everywhere. And so I have to now discuss where they are, what they are, and what we do to get rid of them. I came a number of years ago to somebody's home in San Diego. They were in the process of making their kitchen kasher. They bought a house that was worth a few $1 million, not a small house. And the rabbi had told them to make the kitchen kasher, they need A, B, C, D, F, G. And they started making the order for all those things. And one of their friends heard and said, you should really talk to Rabbi Yonatan Halevy. He could come to your house. And I came to their house. And I have to understand, it's one of those like 8,000 square feet houses. The marble in the kitchen is enough to put down the floor in your house. It's a big house. When I went to the kitchen, she said the rabbi told her she has to replace all the marble countertops in the kitchen. Replace, because you cannot make marble kasher, because marble is stone, and stone cannot be kasher. And the oven has a ceramic lining to it, cannot be kasher. You have to replace the oven. The oven, the stovetops are made out of glass, and glass is a type of earthenware. It cannot be kasher. You have to replace the whole counter. Is like induction glass stove. You have to glass, replace it. And he went through the dishwasher. The dishwasher, though it was a stainless steel dishwasher, the tubing in the back of the dishwasher is made out of rubber, the pipes, and therefore that rubber holds flavor of non-kosher food, and she has to replace the dishwasher. Now, if I was a smart rabbi, I would say, listen, all the money you're planning on spending on the home remodeling, you can donate to my community. I'll take care of your kitchen for you. But I didn't do that. What I told her was, the countertop is fine, the oven is fine, the kitchen is fine. I explained to her how you make your kitchen kasher, regular kitchen kasher. So, but why did that rabbi tell me A, B, C, D? I told her, you have to judge him favorably. Maybe his brother is a general contractor, and he needs to make money for the holiday, and he was trying to help him out. They have to judge him favorably. But even the crooks, you have to judge favorably. So let's talk about our kitchen. How we make our kitchen kasher for Pesach. So the food that we prepare there on Pesach is kasher for Pesach. Aviram, can you do me a favor? Do you mind going next to Yitzchak? Because the microphone is right here. Yeah? It's okay? It's okay. You're good. Yitzchak has room for you. And he's wearing black. We should get 2 cameras. Another one that shows people on Zoom what's happening in the room, so they don't have to guess. So now let's do this. The Torah tells us a story about Midian. The Jewish people go to war in Midian. Who goes to war in Midian? Yeah, I told you. Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen goes to war. And he tells the Jewish people, listen carefully. When you conquer the people of Midian, and you take the things from their camp that you conquered, everything that you took that was used in fire, you have to pass it through fire. And everything that was used with water, b'meh nida itchata. It should be 2 ways to translate this pasuk. Either should be immersed in the waters of nida, that's a mikveh, or the literal meaning of this pasuk is it has to be immersed with the golden calf, ashes. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman explains that there in the Torah, but it's not how our rabbis ruled this the halakha. But it means there are 2 separate categories of halakha. When you acquire food utensils from a non-Jewish person, it has to go to a mikveh to be immersed, and that has no connection to the laws of kashrut. It is simply a biblical law that is a requirement when you buy food serving utensils from non-Jews. Number 2, if those food utensils were used, then you have to remove from them whatever flavor was absorbed into them. And the way that you remove flavor from something is the way that it was absorbed. So if it absorbed through fire, it's going to be removed through fire. So let's take 1 step at a time. Let's talk about immersing things inside of a mikveh. When the Torah says that you immerse things in the mikveh, I have the tissue box, please. It's taken away from me. When you immerse things in a mikveh, what goes to a mikveh? All metal utensils must go to a mikveh on a biblical level. The Torah mentions the gold and the silver and the different types of metal. Our rabbis tell us all metals. How do you define a metal? Our rabbi said anything that you can melt it down and reshape.
Glass.
That gets a little complicated. Avinam, what about glass? Is glass metal?
Sand. Sand could be.
Well, sand is glass, no?
Yeah, sand is.
So does glass need to go to the mikveh? Our rabbis in the Talmud extended glass. So on a biblical level, metal goes to the mikveh. On a rabbinic level, glass goes to the mikveh. Can I have that orange plate, please? What about plastic? Can plastic be melted down and reshaped? There's a letter from Rabbi Moshe Feinstein Shalom who says we cannot make new decrees in our generation. Whatever was then is then. Now we don't have a Sanhedrin. You can't add plastic. It's bad enough we have glass. You can't add plastic to the mix. And our Chachamim agree to that across the board. And we don't immerse plastic utensils inside of a mikveh. So which utensils? You're going to buy new pots and pans. You have to take those to the mikveh if they're made out of metal or they're made out of glass. And before you put them in the water, you say, Asher Kiddusham Zavitivanu al Tevilat Keli or Kelim, depending if it's one or many. Glass, the same thing. Plastic doesn't have to go to the mikveh. What kind of utensils have to go to the mikveh? Anything which comes in direct contact with food. If it doesn't come in direct contact with food, then it does not require a mikveh. I made a list over here. Let me read it to you. Grills, spits, skewers, cups, dicer, grinder, any utensil used to chop food, like taking things out of olives, avocado pits, egg platters, silverware, forks, knives, spoons, a strainer, like you might strain food inside of it, a blender. Pots and pans, scissors used to cut food such as chicken or vegetables. Who here still uses glass baby bottles? Water cooler, nutcracker, bread slicer, plates, bowls, salt or pepper shaker, toaster, grilling machine, thermos, teapot strainer, fruit juicer, funnel, covers and lids of pots and pans, anything that comes in direct contact with your food. Oh, can opener is made to open the can, not to do anything with the food. Yes? But if the can opener also had a strainer piece that had strained the can, then that, I don't know if there's such a thing, maybe someone should invent it, but that would require Tevilat because it's a strainer of food. You saw it here first, Chevra. Take it to the Shark Tank. In any case, most useless innovations ever. So you have here a list of things. Let me ask you, for example, the grates in your oven. Food goes on them directly?
Sometimes. Some people.
Depends which people. Raquel, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So what happens sometimes when you buy certain utensils like condiments, spices, right? Spices in glass containers, and then they finished off, and you're refilling them.
Fantastic question. Okay, hold on, Raquel. That's a great question. So let me answer your question. It has to do with two rules. I have to tell you. There's an exemption by some chachamim on immersing utensils that you don't use, but you buy them for business. Let's say you buy plates to sell them. You don't have an obligation to immerse them now because they're just being sold. Somehow that got translated over to caterers don't have to immerse their utensils. Restaurants, I don't know if that's accurate. So those utensils in the bottle, when you buy them, you bought them like that. The second, there is an opinion, and it's hard to prove this one, but Rabbi Yitzhak Abadi alav shalom, he brought a source for it in his book Or Yitzchak, that one-time use utensils, disposable utensils, don't need to have Tevilat done to them. So the assumption is, for most people, they finish a jar, they throw away the jar. In California, they recycle the jar. They recycle it. But there are some people, they buy the jar, they're going to keep it for 100 years. When they die, they're going to inherit the jar to their children. And that's going to be a whole nother kind of jar. It seems like after the first time they use that jar, they might have to take it to the mikveh, maybe. I once spoke to Mori Arav, and he said, if you use something a few times, but eventually you're going to throw it away, then it's considered disposable. But there's no halachot in Shulchan Aruch or Rambam that mention these exact scenarios, so we're kind of relying on our logic to determine what we do with those kind of things. What about electric utensils? Let's say a toaster. It's going to break. If you dunk your toaster in the mikveh, it depends. I was at Costco last week, and I saw a toaster. Just for the Yetzer Hara, I wanted to buy it. It had like a digital display, like toast. You press the picture of the toast. No. You press a picture of a bagel. You understand how far we've evolved in humanity? There's still homeless people outside of the store, but we have toasters with display screens on them. And so I decided, oh man, I need this. But the problem is, if you take this toaster, you dunk it in the water, it's never going to work again. But, listen carefully, and for the electric engineers and the firefighters that are in this class, please ignore everything I'm about to say. If you go buy a $20 toaster from Walmart, and you dunk into the mikveh, and you leave it outside in the California sun for 3 days, 5 days, your toaster will be just fine. Ask me how I know. At the end of the day, Chevra, at the end of the day, this is the story with most electronic appliances. And what happens if you really have an electronic appliance that you're not able to take apart? There's a few solutions. One, you can disassemble it till it's not able to be used, and you can reassemble it. In which case, who built this appliance? Somebody Jewish, and therefore it doesn't require Tevilat. The problem is, if you've ever seen the appliances in the recent 50 years, anything you take apart, the glue that was stuck inside of it will come apart. You will never be able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So they don't have appliance repair stores anymore. They just have electronic drop-off sites where you throw away your electronics because people don't bother fixing these things anymore. Second option, not the best option, but you might be able to sell your appliance to somebody who's not Jewish and then borrow it from them. That might only work for a short period of time. There's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch like that. Third, there's an opinion brought down by one of the chachamim. I can't say everybody agrees with him. A utensil that is so big that it is attached to the ground. Yitzchak once was in a catering kitchen, and they had what they called a kettle. Imagine like something the size of 3 bathtubs. I can't tell you how big it is. They make soup in there. Like they fill it up with liquid, and you make pasta for 1,000 people. How do you do it? You don't boil a pot of water. You make it in this kettle. And then you have like a cranker. You crank it, and it turns over, and it spills all the pasta into, I guess, another huge, like Og Melech HaBashan sized receiver. Okay? This thing, does it require Tevilah? No, it's literally part of the ground. It's attached to the ground. And therefore, it's not a utensil that requires Tevilah. So there was one Chacham who said that every electric appliance is really attached to the ground. Because if it's not plugged in, it wouldn't work. I don't accept that opinion either, but what I can tell you is you can definitely rely on that in some kind of pressing situation. Naomi, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, I hope this isn't going to be too far afield, but so some of us will be going to the Jewish supermarket, the kosher supermarket this week, and maybe they have pots and pans or kettles over there. And so people say it's a Jewish, you're buying it from a Jewish-owned company, but other people say, but they never immersed it. So what do you say on that?
If you bought it from a Jewish-owned company, but they bought it from somewhere that it wasn't Jewish, you would have to immerse the utensil yourself. And the Jews of New York already did one up on you. When you go to any major grocery store in the tri-state area, they have mikvahs inside of the kosher store. Like as you're checking out, once you cover your receipt, you can just dunk it over there and take it home. I'm not sure that's like, when the Torah was imagining you're going to take your pot to the river, to the lake, to the ocean. I don't know if it was imagined like in the middle of the bustling grocery store under fluorescent lights at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if that's what they had in mind, but it technically ticks the requirements of Tevilat Kelim. And this might change if it's something, let's say, made in Israel let's say you buy some silver made in Israel, silver kiddush cup made by somebody in Nachlaot. Okay, that probably would not require immersion because hopefully they made it at home. This is the laws of Tevilat Kelim. I don't want you to confuse these halachot with anything to do with kashrut. Nothing. The food that is made in a pot that was not taken to the mikveh, it's not kosher. If this is a separate halacha, simply I teach this halacha because there's a lot of confusion about it, and every year people buy new utensils, and they don't know what yes to take to the mikveh and what not to take to the mikveh. Tevilat Kelim, that was one. Let's talk about Hechsher Kelim. How to make your utensils kasher. This is probably where the most of your action is going to happen in the coming time. You look around your kitchen. And in your kitchen you have countertops, sink, oven, stove, microwave, dishwasher, blender, smoothie maker, slushy maker, waffle maker, hot dog maker, popcorn maker, or whatever. I don't know. Cotton candy maker. You might have all kinds of appliances in your house. What do you have? It's the pot, right? Air fryer, ice cream maker. You have a lot of utensils. And I'll tell you, from all the generations of people who made food, we're like the worst food of any generation. So we have all these cool appliances. What the old grandmother used to be able to do with one pot and a fire, we're still making the utensils that do that. She knew how to make soup and popcorn and cotton candy in the same pot. Something that we can strive for one day. But for right now, How do you make your kitchen kasher? So our rabbis tell us a rule. Kishem shebol'o, kach poleto. The way that something was absorbed is the way that it's going to give away the flavor, excrete the flavor. The whole thing we're worried about on Pesach is flavor. That's where we started. I started the shiur there. So the one thing that okay, this shiur, it's a long shiur. We're going to finish by 9, but that's 8. Half an hour. I've taken that half an hour, but this is the shiur that covers a lot of topics. So I'm giving you like 6 shiurim for the price of 1. But it takes time, and then I'll take your questions at the end. I want to make sure you have all the information you need. And I saw some people need to go. B'ezrat Hashem, there'll be a recording. Hopefully that will eventually make it online. I can't tell you what Yitzchak's schedule is between today and Pesach. He's a very busy guy. So we have here a rule. The rule says that if something absorbs flavor, this pot. Thank you to Liba for buying me this set of toys, who my children enjoy playing with very much, and when it's not in use for Pesach. This pot was on the fire. What kind of fire? Mamash, outside in the fire, like on a wood fire. And it was made with pigs. They made pig soup in here. No, I came to buy it, right? I want to make it kasher. Forget the mikveh right now. How do I make it kasher? Let me tell you a few halachot first. Halakha number 1, you already know. Bad non-kosher flavor. Is it a problem? No. So what about spoiled pig, like moldy pig? Is moldy pig a kashrut problem? No, of course, you know that. What about like soapy pig? Dawn flavored pig. What about Clorox flavored pig? No. So let's talk now. Very simple. How long does it take for my piece of pig to spoil if I leave it out on the counter?
Okay.
A rabbi say a day. The health department says
6 hours.
2 hours, maybe. You're lucky. Room temperature, 2 hours. The bacteria will kill you after that. That's what they claim. Same thing with your milk. But it might still taste good. So when does it taste bad? A rabbi say 24 hours. After 24 hours, the pig that is sitting on your countertop, he's kosher. Why is he kosher? Because it's spoiled. It's spoiled. There's a fantastic opinion of Tosafot that says it doesn't matter how many hours, as long as midnight passed over it, you might be okay.
So you could just
Sometimes people use that opinion, but 24 hours. Our rabbis call that me'et le'et. From now till now. Meaning, from now at 7:29 p.m. until tomorrow at 7:30, this pot will go back to being kasher. Why will this pot be kasher? Because even if there's still pig flavor absorbed in it, what kind of pig is in there? Kosher pig. What is kosher pig? Spoiled pig. So really, after 24 hours, all of the utensils in your kitchen are not just kasher, they're palve. Meat goes back to being palve. Dairy goes back to being palve. Everything goes back to being kasher. But what happened? Those rabbis. Our chachamim showed up on the scene, and they have a problem. What happens for the guy who is a little impatient? He finished using the pot at 7:30 because he put up dinner yesterday at 6:30 so the kids could have it. Today, though, the kids are coming home. There's no basketball practice. So what are they going to do, Naftali? They're going to want to cook dinner early. Naftali, what are they going to do? Al-Khanan, they're going to cook candies for the kids from the candy cabinet. Because how did you guys sit here for so long without candies? And choose a candy that has enough for all the adults in the room also. So maybe the Mott's or something like that. Or the gummy bears or whatever Edith likes. So we have here this pot. Now this pot, after 24 hours, is palve. Our rabbi tells us, though, the guy, he's rushing. The kids are coming home. She's rushing. Her kids have to go to bedtime. There's a shiur. The rabbi moved the shiur to 6 o'clock instead of 7:30 because the people in New York don't want to come to the class. The people in Maryland, the people who knows where. So because of that, we moved the class early. So what do we need to do? We have to cook early. And they come to use this pot before 24 hours are up. What does that mean? That they intentionally nullified pig into their pot, or meat or milk into their pot. And therefore, say our rabbis, the pot always stays not kosher, or stays chametz, or stays meat, or it stays dairy, until you take it into a kashering process. Now, for the sake of honesty, there is no word in Sephardic lingo as kashering. The Hebrew word is lehachshir, but English doesn't have such a word. So I borrow from the colloquial Ashkenazi American vernacular of kashering. So kashering, it will have to be kashered even after 24 hours. But after 24 hours, what's the rule? It's only a rabbinic obligation to kasher things. So rule number one, it's best if you can wait 24 hours before making something kasher. Why? Because by that level, it's really biblically kasher in the first place. And that should really make you relax because your whole kitchen is really kasher after 24 hours of not using it. But now, what do we do? If I want to make this pot that was in the fire kasher, I clean it, so more pigs. I wait 24 hours, and then how do I make this kasher again? I take it outside to the fire, and I burn it in the fire as a water. It wasn't made kasher with water, it was made in the fire. Just like it came not kasher in the fire, I make it kasher in the fire. Now you're right. What happens if I'm making my in the house, in the oven, on the stovetop? I'm just boiling it with water here. I'm making pasta. How do I make this one kasher? By putting it inside of another pot that's bigger, of boiling water, and making it kasher. The fire method is called libun, and the water method is called hag'ala. Let me ask you the next question. You see this guy? He has holes in him. He's a strainer. I now take my pasta, and I pour it from the fire into my strainer. Has this one ever sat on a fire? Has this one ever boiled water?
No,
So how do I make this one kasher?
you just pour water on it.
I pour boiling water from a pot onto it. Because the way it became not kasher is the way that it becomes kasher. Keshem shebono kach polto. That's the rule. That's the rule. Now, let's keep going. My cup.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are the exceptions on certain utensils that are like kind of damaged or have like little scratches that you cannot?
But Raquel, I didn't finish about Hechsher Kelim. I promise I'm going to share everything.
Okay.
And if I don't, then you'll remind me. So when I go to the next section, if I didn't respond, then tell me. My cup. No, better. My spoon. If it's my spoon that I'm mixing with on the fire, on the pot, on the stovetop, how do I make it kasher? Oh, Jacob, don't complicate my life. I have to dip it back inside of the pot of hot water to make it kasher. No, the whole thing. That's a good question. Now, if it's my spoon that I'm eating at the table with, how did this become not kasher? Through very minimal heat. It might not even need hechsher, but for sure, if I pour hot water over it and over the plate, it's going to be kasher, for sure. That's called irui. So we have libun, fire. Hagala, boiling water. Irui, pouring boiling water. There's one more category I didn't tell you, and that is this one. It's called hadacha. The most basic method of making something kasher is washing it. Washing it. Meaning, Chametz was not absorbed inside of it. Why was Chametz not absorbed inside of it? Because it wasn't hot. Heat is what transfers flavor. Because it wasn't hot, then it didn't become not kasher in the first place. The only place where there's something not kasher, Avinam, is on the surface here. And once I clean it, what is the status of this cup? It's kasher. Hadacha, category number 4. Now that you know this, Jacob wanted to throw a curveball at us. Jacob says, well, what do you usually use the cup for? Why is he asking me that question? Because of a halacha and Shulchan Aruch that most people don't know. You see my cup? What if this is my cup? Tell her she was getting a call from Maximo. This is a cup that I usually use with hot things. I usually eat my chicken noodle soup inside of it. So how do I make it kasher? With hot water. I have to pour something hot on it. But let's say this is my iced tea cup. It's my lemonade sipping cup. But one time when my Aunt Gertrude came to visit, she put chicken noodle soup inside of it. How do I make it kasher for Pesach? Says Maran, being that after 24 hours it's already kasher, and it's only a rabbinic law that we have to make it kasher through heat because of that one time that you might forget, says Maran, you go after the majority of use of the utensil. And therefore, if you usually use this with cold, then you just wash it. Even if one time you may have. And that goes to answer yet another question. How do you know that that food wasn't made one time on a pad? Because one time doesn't matter. Period. Halacha, Shulchan Aruch. That's why we have that book. You go based on the majority of uses of something when you make something kasher. So you ask yourself, yes, one time I had hot chametz here, but usually I use this plate for salad. That's cold. So how do I make it kasher? Just by making sure that it's clean. So the 4 categories of kashering things: libun, fire; hagada, boiling water; irui, pouring boiling water; hadacha, just cleaning with water. Now, once you add soap to any of these mixtures, then already it has bad flavor because nobody wants lemony fresh chicken. And when I was in yeshiva in Baltimore, they used to serve us pizza, lemony fresh pizza. Because they would have these huge commercial pans they would heat up the pizza in. They would buy it from a caterer, like yesterday when it was on sale. And then today they would, I don't know what it was an old pizza. And they would reheat it in the oven. But they put it in these pans. Nobody wanted to, I guess the people in the kitchen were lazy. They washed the pans from the morning breakfast, but they still had soap suds in them. And they wouldn't dry them. And so the top of the pizza was like Kehillat Shaar almost. There was water on both sides. On the top there was oil. So much oil. I never saw so much oil on a piece of pizza in my life. You could take paper towels and to dry the pizza on the top. And the bottom smelled like lemony fresh soap because that's what so the pizza was flavored between oil and lemony fresh. That means that was one more day that I ate inside of my room. Like on the gefilte fish day, I ate in my room. On the meatloaf day, I ate in my room. On the day that they gave us potatoes with plastic cheese, you know what plastic cheese? It's melted. Yeah, I know it. It's when it dries, it goes into plastic. I don't know what it is. They serve it in places. Those days, I don't know what it was. In my house, we didn't have those UFOs, so I would go eat in my room, whatever crackers or whatever I had, rice cakes, whatever we had over there. But at the end of the day, those kind of things, you follow the halachot in this category. Now, what was it I was telling you? Let me refresh. If it tastes like soap, then it's kasher. Let's keep going. Utensils. I showed you some utensils here. Our rabbis tell us that metal absorbs flavor and excretes flavor. Secretes flavor? No. Bolea, polit. So, now tell me about glass. There cannot be an opinion about flavor. What did this glass? Okay, you know what I had in this glass yesterday? If you go right now and make yourself a cup of hot water in this glass, and you taste, will you know that I had lemon verbena tea yesterday? No. Or nana tea yesterday? Will you know that 2 days ago I had onion soup inside it? Will you know? Glass is a non-porous material. But how do I know? Watch. You see? You see the absorptions? I'm looking through you. At you. You see the absorptions in here? Can you taste the absorption in here? Doesn't matter who had an opinion. By the way, Rabbeinu Harambam didn't believe the glass. He believed glass could be absorbed. Doesn't matter. The glass that you and I know that is sitting in your kitchen right now does not absorb flavor. Therefore, the way you make it kasher, whether you're Ashkenazi or Sephardi or you are, I don't know where you come from, you just wash your glass utensils and they are kasher. Good. Next, ceramic. Our rabbis told us they were afraid of earthenware utensils because earthenware utensils, they break in heat. And they were afraid that people would not sufficiently heat them because they were afraid to crack them. And so they said you cannot make earthenware utensils kasher. And so for those kind of things, you just put them away. Now, when our rabbis spoke about earthenware, they were not talking about your ceramic plate at home with 3 inches of glaze on it. They were talking about that pot that you have in the backyard, the brown one. They have a word for it. Terracotta. Yeah, that's what they mean when they say cheres. You spill oil on that one, and you don't get the oil out of that one. It absorbs oil. That's what they meant. Now that I can tell you this, I told this already to you for a few years in a row. Mori Harav, before he died, in a video that he put out to the world, I should probably save that video, Rabbi, so that people don't say that I made it up. Mori Harav said that stainless steel doesn't absorb flavor. And it doesn't give off flavor. And you could test it at home. Go take a pot. Not this one. Stainless steel. Go get the spiciest peppers you can in Sprouts. What are the spiciest peppers they sell in Sprouts? Habanero? Habanero peppers. And fry them in there. And then add water on top of it and make a habanero pepper soup. How much habanero? Fill the pot with habaneros. And then blend the habaneros in that pot. And then pour out the habanero soup into a container because nobody's going to be able to eat it. And then wash out this pot, and not 24 hours. 10 minutes later, boil a pot of water. Who here thinks that you're going to taste the habanero pepper inside of that water? And therefore, your pot is not metal in halakha, it is glass in halakha. And I'm telling you this, that in my kehillah, this one, the guys who make the bad videos, make this one into a video. In my kehillah, as per the teachings of Mori Harav, we use the same stainless steel utensils for meat and for milk and for Pesach and for Chametz. All, the same pot that you use on Tuesday night for your noodle soup is the same one you can use on Wednesday morning for your dairy oatmeal. It's the same one you can make your chicken soup for on Pesach. Then what do you have to do in between? Just wash it out. And so now, because all of you live in kitchens where half of your utensils are stainless steel, I just saved you hours of work. More than that. Most of the utensils in your kitchen, many of them don't absorb flavor, and you can do the test on your own. But those that do, let's walk through how you make them kasher. Okay? Your countertops. Who here eats off of someone saying, wait?
Can I ask you a question? I thought there was a rabbinic law that said even though stainless steel might become hard or doesn't absorb, you still have to have dairy and fish.
No. I'm telling you that the categories of metal, glass, ceramic are not metal, glass, ceramic. They are absorbent, non-absorbent, things that could break. That's what those categories mean. Now it could. Let me give the class because I don't want the people to get confused. I know that other people here think they want to give the class, but I need to give the class. We have here now the following rules. You have your kitchen, the countertops. What are your countertops made out of? Tile. Plastic. Granite. Composite. Quartzite. Keep going. Anyone have stainless steel countertops? That's because you don't live in a commercial kitchen. Stainless steel countertops. All of your countertops. Tell me which one of them is really absorbent. I want to hear which one. Wood. A wood countertop. Somebody threw a wood countertop. My parents have in the kitchen in the middle a wood. They call it a butcher block. That one. There's not. Okay, let's go. On your countertop, I want you to tell me the scenario where you take a slab of chametz, slap it down on the countertop. No cutting board, no pot, no. Slap it down on there, boiling hot. And then tomorrow, you have some hot lasagna that you smack down in the same place and you slurp off the countertop. I want to hear a scenario. Go. Nobody does that. So nobody does that. What I'm telling you, your countertop in halakha is a floor. When Maran says that you make your tables and countertops kasher for Pesach, what was the table in yesterday's times? They ate off of the table. You serve food on the table. You know, there's a Moroccan minhag of we wave the seder plate over everybody's head. How many years do you think Jews had seder plates for? Only when they started using plates. Go to Yemenite seder, for example. The whole table is the seder plate. Why? It's not like a Yemenite. Oh, it's a Yemenite custom. The whole table is a seder plate. That's not a Yemenite custom. It's the whole world's custom. Go to any world. Go to the Philippines, Indonesia. I don't know where you're going to. They sit on the floor and they bring this box in front of them. That's one's called a table. And they put the food on the table and they eat from the table. And then when they're done, They move away the table. In your Haggadah, when it says, and now we remove the Seder plate from the table, it doesn't say that in any Jewish Haggadah. You know what it says in the Haggadah? And now we remove the table from the room. Because you take the whole table out of the room, and then you bring back the table to the room, and you take it out of the room. Why do you do that? So that the children will ask questions. You think anybody notices when your little measly Seder plate leaves the table? Behind the roses, under the chocolates, around the mouth. You think anybody sees that? The whole thing is a farce, but I'm going to leave the Seder for a different time. The table itself, you make that kasher because the table in Maran's time is your plate. But your table, your countertop is the floor. Let me ask you this question. Who here has ever eaten food off of their dining room table? Don't tell me like if you're under 10 or something, don't answer this question. Okay? I mean as an adult. Have you had guests over and said, oh, here's chicken and rice, here's salmon and quinoa, slap it down on the table? You ever done that before? Is there a chance that within 24 hours of chametz being used on your countertop, touching it hot, that you're putting down kosher for Pesach food in the same spot? There's not a chance in the world. And for sure, once you wipe down the table with soap, with Windex on whatever you use to clean your house, then anything that was still there is already kasher lePesach. It's bate, it's pagum, it's bad flavor. And therefore, here's the answer. Your countertops, just please make sure they're clean and don't slurp lasagna off of them. So countertops, do nothing. Just wipe them down if there's chametz, and if not, they're fine. Your sink. Who here eats out of their sink? So you want once in your life, your sink is like a petri dish. It's almost like your children who come home from preschool. It's almost like their hands, okay? The sink is full of bacteria. So the people get these special Pesach liners. The only thing those Pesach liners are good for are collecting more bacteria from inside of your sink. That's the only thing. It's disgusting. Yes? So the people tell me, the sink, as long as you don't eat out of your sink and your sink is clean, your sink is fine. Your dishwasher, Maran writes in Shulchan Aruch that if you have a pot and you want to wash your meat and milk dishes together, dirty meat, dirty milk, you want to put them all in the same pot to wash them, because that's how you wash dishes. The pot of today is, the dishwasher of today is the pot of yesterday. You boil water, you add some ashes or soap, and all of the utensils can be washed together. So once you have soap in your dishwasher, all of the biliot, the imaginary absorptions of your dishwasher also absorb your Cascade detergent from Costco, and therefore your dishwasher is kasher lePesach. There's nothing you need to do for your dishwasher. Your oven. Maran writes in Siman Kuf Chet 108. Maran writes there's no such thing as a meat or milk oven. As long as your oven has ventilation in it, and it's not when we say oven in the Chachamim, we're talking about Esther's barbacoa. Esther, it's a hole in the ground, covered completely, no fans, no circulation, no ventilation, no nothing. That's an oven. In that kind of oven, Maran says you can cook meat and milk together under certain circumstances. But for sure, the oven in your house, that you smell the oven in the whole house, that's not an oven. That's a box with holes inside of it. And therefore, you want to make it kasher, clean it, and then, if you want to be strict, leave it on for half an hour, 45 minutes. Let it get hot inside, 500, and that's it. If you use self-clean mode in your oven, you are violating a biblical prohibition of putting your family's life in danger. Every single year, people die because of turning their ovens on self-clean mode. It's a horrible thing, and especially if you put some cleaning agent in there and your house gets full of fumes. And I don't need to talk more, but don't do that, please. Your microwave. Microwaves heat up food? Yes. Do they get hot? No. That's the whole thing of a microwave. When you heat up something in the microwave for 3 minutes and then you touch the wall of the microwave, how hot is the wall of the microwave? Is it hot enough to burn your hand? No. Therefore, you do not have to make your microwave kasher lePesach. Just make sure there's no chametz in your microwave. So if you are a college student living in a college dorm and there are amoebas floating around your microwave, so clean up that stuff. Yeah, I don't know, bacteria, mold. People have. I once went to a microwave. I opened it up. Purple mold, green mold, brown mold. It's disgusting. So that's a kosher. Kosher is not the problem of this microwave. That's not. It's not the problem over here. You need like a hazmat team to come take out this college dorm microwave. This microwave, you make it kasher by making sure that it's clean. You want to boil a cup of water because it makes steam. I let you boil a cup of water. But more than that, your microwave is kasher for Pesach. What about your toaster? What are you going to toast on Pesach? I want to hear. The most you could do is take one of our saf matzot and then you toast it. It's going to be a crunchy matzah. Just go save yourself the work and buy a crunchy matzah. No, I know what they're going to tell me. The gluten-free Trader Joe's waffles. Okay, fine. I'll give it to you. Let me tell you like this. It's very hard to make a toaster kasher. The reason why? It's very hard to remove all of those crumbs from that bottom of the toaster. So my suggestion really, and you're not going to hear me say this about anything. I had a very difficult time making a toaster kasher. For $20, go buy yourself a new one at Walmart. It's mamash the only thing I'm going to tell you that. It's very difficult to get in there and clean it. So put it away and get a new one.
What's it gonna put soap in it?
It's like the people that are afraid to take it to the mikveh are not going to put soap in it. Yeah, Jacob says the firefighters are having a field day with us. Fine, but they want to use it on Pesach instead. You can put it away. I didn't say throw it away. Just put it away. Next, what other appliance do you have? A blender. That's been blender every year. Depends on your blender. High quality blender, low quality blender. There are some blenders, when you open the lid, you smell the smoothie from 3 weeks ago. That blender probably has all kinds of billy on there. When you have a blender though that's clean, it smells clean. You put water in there, the water comes out tasting clean. And that blender doesn't need it. It gets hot in there. Good. So blend some hot water if it makes you feel good inside of there. Someone asked about air fryers. I don't own an air fryer, so I don't actually know how air fryers work. But it's like everything else. You're gonna have to clean it well and let it get to the same temperature that it was when it absorbed chametz inside of it. Basically, a small toaster oven is like the one with the door, right? Same idea. Okay, that one also you can make it clean and then just put it on the heat for a little bit. Aaron.
What about a refrigerator?
What about her? That's a great question. People ask me about putting down contact paper or brown paper inside of the refrigerator. The only thing that it's good for is having to get a new refrigerator because you will kill the ventilation of your refrigerator. Your compressor will suffer severely from that, and it's not made to have paper lining in the refrigerator. Let me ask you this question. How do you kasher your refrigerator from meat to milk? That's exactly the same way you have to make it from Chametz to Pesach. Yes? That's the same to everything else I'm going to tell you. How do you kasher your countertop from meat to milk? I have 2 countertops. Don't say that. That breaks my heart every time I hear people have 2 countertops. Now tell me this, because you know, in the olden days they had 2 rivers to wash their dishes, a meat river and a dairy river, and that's of course how you have to do it. What else? Your stovetop. Tell me about your stovetop. Aside from those of you who live in Borough Park, like my wife, everywhere else in the world when I ask this question, how do you kasher your stove from meat to milk? My wife and Barbara did. They have 2 different stoves, one for meat, one for milk. You don't. You have meat and milk stovetops. The stove top doesn't touch your food. It touches the bottom of your pot. And your pot doesn't get cooties from the stuff that was there before. What yes? When food falls out onto your stovetop, the assumption in your mind should always be that it's not kosher. When pasta falls out of the stove, out of the pot onto the stove, I tell my kids throw it away. Because it could be there's meat, could be there's milk, it could be oil, I don't know what there's there, throw it away. That's the rule. If you have a glass stovetop and it's clean, glass doesn't absorb flavor, and therefore, there's no problem here. You shouldn't be covering gas burners with aluminum foil. It's another way for a person's family to die. You shouldn't be doing anything, just, you want to make it kasher, feels good, leave your stovetop on for 5 minutes. If you would touch your stovetop after 5 minutes, it would burn your hand. That's hot enough to make your stovetop kasher. Leave it alone. Aside from that, it's only touching the bottom of your pots and pans. Tell me which appliances you need to know that I didn't talk about. Not your cotton candy machine, it's only cotton candy. Your Instapot. Okay, Instapot has the insert, the metal. It has that rubber piece around it. I had an Instapot for about 2 months, and then I gave it away because the biggest size Instapot doesn't ever feed the amount of people that I need to feed. So I just gave it back. But for the few times that I had it, I had a separate rubber piece for meat and for milk because I felt that one, it changed colors when I cooked, like turmeric with it, it changed colors. Now, it could be that's my personal stringency. Could be doesn't give off flavor. For Pesach, you could pour boiling water or boil that rubber. I don't know what will happen to it. My feeling is that's the only problem, is that rubber piece. The rest of it, you just have to... No chametz, so then it's fine. The But let's say you would use it for chametz, and that's just the only piece that I say. But look at this. If you were to put an empty cycle inside of your Instant Pot, water, boil water in there, then it would also kasher the rubber. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. The Persian rice cooker, same idea. Same idea. You have to look at it with your eyes, like what here absorbs flavor, what here doesn't. What other appliance?
Somebody in the chat, can you kosher plastic with hagala as well?
If it's, yeah, plastic is able to be kasher. Can be kasher with hagala. I mean, no. Which utensil? Oh, okay, so amazing. That's how the microwave. Thank you, Avinom. Guys, Avinom will give a shiur on the science of microwaves. Yes, Aaron.
I don't have a question about science, but I have a question about something.
So can I take your question at the end? Right answer is yes. So, Zev, you said it's not even really cooking. There are Harav Peretz would tell people who cooked on Shabbat it's better for them to use a microwave than to use fire. Not that it was okay, but that it's better. And then Rabbi Ben Sion Abba Shaul was of the opinion that food cooked in a microwave by non-Jews is not considered cooking. It's not important enough to be able to be served on a king's table. And therefore, there was a restaurant somewhere under a certain rabbi's supervision. He relied on this. They would make egg sandwiches by microwaving the eggs. I'm not sure that's ever a restaurant you should eat in, but he claimed that it wasn't a problem of bishulei goyim. Imagine you like nuked eggs for breakfast. That's a new one. What? Not local. Not in San Diego. No. In terms of kashering your kitchen, I think I covered all of the utensils. Liba has once posted on our Facebook forum an excerpt from my book of all the different things. We spoke about kitniyot a little bit, buying food for Pesach, sensitive ingredients. I'll make a pitch for Yashan in just a minute. Let me talk for 1 minute about medications, cosmetics, lipstick, and deodorant. By raise of hands, who eats their deodorant? If you do, I have a good doctor for you. All non-edible food products. New chapstick for Pesach. The Rabbi got. I saw a few years ago a toilet plunger for Pesach. Not like this. There's a famous story about Rabbi Soloveitchik. Rabbi Soloveitchik was once asked about toothpaste. If you need special kosher for Pesach toothpaste. He said the halacha is, if it's not ra'ui la'achilat kelim, if a dog doesn't eat it, then it's fine. So some guy went to his dog and gave him toothpaste. The dog licked the toothpaste. She came back to Rabbi Soloveitchik. Rabbi, the dog licked the toothpaste. And Rabbi Soloveitchik told him, you fool, you think we learn halachot from dogs? So what is the idea not fit for dog consumption? It's not something that a dog is given to eat, that eats. But Harav Peretz was particular about things that you put in your mouth, things that are possibly edible, that go on your lips. I could hear it, but here's the thing. Is it really chametz? The assumption here is that those things have real chametz inside of them. Not all things that you think are chametz are really chametz. It's a derivative of chametz. Doesn't make it biblically chametz. It makes it at best rabbinically chametz. Nullified into something before Pesach, for sure not chametz. If it's rabbinically nullified before Pesach, for sure not chametz. In a non-edible food product, for sure not chametz. What do they tell me? There's a halakha that says that if you smear something on your body, it's like drinking it. That halakha was said in regards to a very vague halakha in the laws of sacrifices. Nothing to do with Pesach. It's not normal that people are worried about which hand cream and which. All of your cosmetics are fine. Medicine. Depends what is a medicine. Okay, some people pop medicines that are, placebo pills. Maybe that also is important. But a medication that is important for you, you should take it on Pesach. If it's swallowed, there's no problem at all, even if it has chametz inside of it. Because to be guilty of violating any kashrut prohibition, you have to eat the food in a way that is enjoyable to the palate. Swallowing food is according to all. If you swallow pig, it is only rabbinically prohibited, not biblically prohibited. And if you swallow pig for the sake of health, if that was a health thing, then it is completely fine.
Why
The
no
same,
horn medicine?
the same with chametz. What?
Why no horn medicine?
Oh, sure, but and that's a lot of things that people take. The same with chametz. Now, if you're taking things that taste good, some kind of syrup, that's maybe something you want to look into. But again, you have to really make sure: is it really chametz, or they just told me maybe it was made in the same factory where the guy didn't change his gloves when he was touching sandwiches? That's not the same thing as definitely contains chametz. As I'm wrapping this up, I have a few more things to share before I take everybody's questions. Number one. The same people who don't use paper towels on Pesach because the first two are stuck together with cornstarch and they might come to wipe their plate and therefore violate their family's custom of eating corn on Pesach, a custom that's not so old because corn didn't exist where that person's family came from. The same people are very happy taking thousands of dollars worth of chametz, putting it in their garage, selling it to somebody not Jewish, and owning chametz on Pesach, pretending that they sold it to somebody else. And I'll never for the life of me understand how people can pretend to be so particular about chametz, yet own so much chametz. But I sold it to a non-Jew. Yes, you went online, you put a form, you clicked it. But if that guy, Christopher, Mohammed, I don't know, John, showed up at your house at 3 o'clock in the morning to pick up his chametz, you're calling the police on him because he's stealing my chametz. Well, if he's stealing your chametz, my friends, then it's your chametz, not his chametz. And so the whole concept of selling chametz, okay, if it's done properly and it's a real sale, then it's a real sale. But what can I tell you is it's best to avoid it if you can. In the olden world, people didn't have stockpiles of thousands of pounds of cookies and bread in their freezers. People have bought for today what they're going to eat tomorrow. They bought today what they need today. And so what do you have to get rid of? The chametz. Now, getting rid of chametz does not mean throwing chametz away to the trash. The mitzvah to burn chametz is under the assumption that you live in a place where there are no poor people that are not Jewish that could use your chametz. But to take good chametz and throw it away, look for a food bank. Go to a soup kitchen. You'll find a food pantry somewhere. Drop off your chametz over there. It is not normal that people would violate a biblical prohibition of wasting food when there are hungry people in the world that could use your food. That's also not normal. It's another biblical prohibition to waste food. And I hurt every year when I see the amount of good food that people throw away. Now, if your person needs to sell chametz, sell it. But understand that you have a very big leniency that you're relying on as it relates to owning chametz on Pesach. And when it comes to Yashan. Those of you who know, you know that I told you now, you don't have to make your countertops kasher, your refrigerators are fine. I just saved you now hours and hours and hours of work for all your stainless steel utensils, all of the things that you buy from our forum. I'm here to save you time and energy and money. And it's not in the business of making things easy. People ask me about dog food. Is that what I'm seeing in the questions? Let me answer about pets for one moment. In early years, I told you to be strict regarding pet food, as the clear halakha says that one is not allowed to feed their animals chametz on Pesach, because you're getting benefit from chametz on Pesach by feeding your dog. Liba, who's my moderator in the forum, is very particular. You know, when you change a pet's diet, his whole life gets thrown off. Diet changes. I have parrots at home. For those who don't know, I own 15 birds. One of my birds, when I change his diet for Pesach, he starts pulling out his feathers. And so that's something you have to take into consideration. In early years, we had all kinds of solutions. There's a letter from Rabbi Ben Zion Abba Shaul, the Chacham of Yosef agreed on. And that is that mixtures of chametz, particularly mixtures of chametz that don't taste or smell good, are allowed to be retained on Pesach and can be fed to animals on Pesach. The classic example for that is fish food. If you open up your fish food, it stinks. It smells really bad. And therefore, according to Rabbi Ben Zion Abba Shaul, you would be allowed to feed your fish that chametz mixture of fish food. It's not breadcrumbs. It's a mixture of all kinds of things. In there is chametz. The same I would say to pets. If you're not able to find the kasher for Pesach food for your dog, what do I mean kasher for Pesach? I mean something that doesn't contain overt chametz. Then a mixture of chametz that doesn't smell so great, like most pet foods, it's possible that you could rely on that to feed your animals. I do that with one of my birds, whose food also doesn't smell so great. I do that for him. The rest of them eat seeds and fruits and nuts and things like that. And the seeds that have barley in that, I switch out those barley because it's actual barley. It's not a mixed pellet or something like that. As I was telling you before, I'm not a person who looks for leniencies. I'm a person who looks to stick to the Shulchan Aruch. There's a stupid saying that goes around every year. And it's every time an Ashkenazi person says, "Oh, I want to eat rice," his friends tell him, "Well, you're going to have to wake up for 40 days to say Slichot on Pesach." That's on Rosh Hashanah. That's the stupidest thing I heard in my life. First off, you don't know one Sephardic person in the world who complains about saying Slichot for 40 days. We only know people who complain about not saying, we want to say it for 100 days, not for 40 days. It's a very enjoyable part of prayer. In fact, once you do Slichot and then you go to Shacharit, it's like, oh, Shacharit a little more boring, God forbid that I'm saying that, compared to Slichot. You get the Shema, it's a biblical commandment, and it's not as exciting as Adon Slichot. So none of us feel that way about Slichot. But Slichot being a Sephardic thing is a very late custom. Rabbeinu HaRambam said Slichot for 10 days, just like the Ashkenazim do. Ashkenazim say a little bit more. So then, there's nothing. Downstairs? There is nothing Sephardic about forcing people to say Slichot for 40 days. Here's what, yes. I'm going to say it like this. The same people who are going to eat like us on Pesach have to eat like us the rest of the year. There's a few things that people are not careful about. And it's important for me to tell you that. Number one, in this country, people eat food that is cooked by non-Jewish people in almost every single kosher restaurant in this town. Not this town, the whole world. I go to New York, I go to Maryland, I go to Philadelphia, I go to LA, I go to everywhere I go, Israel. I have to ask, who's cooking the food? The guy in the kitchen. Is he Jewish? No. So how is he allowed to cook the food? Oh, well, the mashgiach turned on the fire. When did he turn on the fire? 7 years ago when we opened the restaurant. And since then, it's on a timer. It turns itself on every morning. You can imagine that if I turn on the fire, this happens, by the way. I'm going to tell you how it happens. 4th of July. Houses across the world. It's already 8:07. Give me just a few minutes. I'm going to end the show. Houses around the world. 4th of July. There's a wife who goes to the store and she buys meat and she buys chicken and she buys hot dogs and she buys plates and chicken, ketchup and who knows what, salad and corn in the cob. And there's some guy with a big beer belly and an undershirt where you see his shoulders that need more sunlight. And you see him standing there in front of his barbecue that his wife turned on for him and brought him the spatula and brought him the pan and brought him the thing. And he comes and he takes a steak that she marinated and she cut and he takes it and puts it in the fire. And then he stands there for sipping his beer, talking to his friend, playing some music from his phone. And then he sits down to dinner. And there's steak, and there's rice, and there's beans, and there's corn, and there's salad, and there's bread, and there's a table that's set. And there he says, how do you like when I cook dinner? Yeah, like that. So this ogre, he's under the impression that he made dinner. But he didn't make dinner. Just like the impression that you think that the Jewish guy who turned on the fire in the morning is the one who cooked your food. If the person who does all the work, who's flipping, who's cooking, who's putting, and you just turned on the fire in the morning on the way to the Beit HaKnesset, the food that you're eating is food that is cooked by non-Jewish people. I ask you to be particular about this halakha. When you go to a restaurant, tell them, can the mashgiach please at least put the food in the fire for me? I follow the Shulchan Aruch. Not I'm Sephardic. That's not a thing. I'm not Sephardic either. I'm Yemenite. I am Jewish. I follow Shulchan Aruch. Because of that, I'm asking for a Jewish person to cook my food. One time I got thrown out of a restaurant for that. The rest of the time, I was once in Flatbush, Rabbanit, 1 o'clock in the morning. I landed from a flight. I needed food. My flight didn't have. And I went to this place, Schnitzli's. Who eats schnitzel 1 o'clock in the morning? I went there and I said, guys, can you have the Mashiach put the food in the fire? And they announced everything there over a loudspeaker. They said, order number 112, please make it super kosher. And like that, the Mashgiach made it. So you should say, I keep super kosher. I go and I get special cooked food by Jews. Yes. Yeah, it's scary when you have to teach the Mashgiach why it is. In Manhattan, the Mashgiach told me he can't go to the kitchen because it offends the cook when he goes inside of the kitchen. Yes? By my wedding, all the food was like super, double, triple. Even the seltzer was filtered with special filters. So you have to understand the kosher that happened at my wedding. But the food wasn't kosher because it was cooked by non-Jewish people. And I went to the kitchen crew and I told them, a guy mashgiach, I said, I need you to cook the food. I don't cook food. So I hired somebody. I was a young chatan. I paid hundreds of dollars from my own pocket. My own. I didn't ask for my parents. I didn't take from my in-laws. I paid another guy in the kitchen Everything that went into the oven that day was put in by a Jewish person. Every single thing. Not on my dime, somebody is going to be eating food that's cooked by non-Jewish people. That's a halakha and Shulchan Aruch. Yes? Number two. Just keep going, I'm scaring you guys already. Okay, there are rules. Yes, you have to watch my other classes. I have a class of the Chabura called Bishul. You'll see there about what you're allowed to eat and not allowed to eat. Number two, before Yashan, I was going to say something else. Particularities about kashrut. It's a big problem. Yeah. No. Okay. My second thing is Yashan. The Torah says, Vaikra, chapter 24. Velechem, vekali, vecharmel, lo tochelu ad etzem hayom hazeh. That when you harvest your field, and you harvest any of the 5 grains, it is forbidden for a Jewish person to eat grains that are harvested from the field, ad etzem hayom hazeh, until this day. What is this day? The second day of Pesach, when we begin counting the Omer. What is the counting of the Omer? Don't listen to the liars who tell you, tonight's night of the Omer is the energy of this one with the energy of that one, and you fix on your inner character of the who knows. Liars, all of them. They made it up. Now, is there Kabbalah? Sure, there's Kabbalah, but that's not why I'm counting the Omer. I'm not counting 7 weeks in order to make it to the energy of the healing of the Givurah Sheba. Not like that. I'm counting the Omer as a biblical commandment that when Jewish people harvest their field, they must bring part of the harvest to the Bet Mikdash, because Jewish people are not allowed to eat grains until the day in which we offer it to the Bet Mikdash. What about today that we don't have a Bet Mikdash? Still, we wait until the time we begin counting the Omer. Outside of Israel, because we keep 2 days of Pesach, we wait until the 3rd day. That's called new flour versus old flour. Chadash versus Yashan. We are not allowed to eat Chadash flour, new flour. It's a biblical prohibition. We are only allowed to eat old flour that is from before, grains that are from before Pesach. So when you go to the grocery store today and you see a cookie, and the cookie has on it kosher symbol, A, B, C, D, the same guys who say water bottles are Chametz, and Dawn soap needs a hechsher, and decaf coffee is Chametz, the same guys, the same people. They put their kosher symbol on cookies and cakes and crackers and bread that is biblically forbidden to eat. According to the Torah, the Mishnah, the Talmud, the Rambam, and the Shulchan Aruch. And they say, it's mehadrin kosher. And if you eat it, you are violating a biblical prohibition. Mori Harav used to tell us. He said, Rabbi Yonatan, tell the people in your community that it's better for them to eat a meat and cheese sandwich, a deli sandwich, with a slice of deli and a slice of cheese, than to eat a cookie that has a kosher symbol on it where the flour is chadash. Because meat and cheese, when not cooked together, is only rabbinically prohibited. And this flour is biblically prohibited. I'm leaving you with these 2 things. One is a rabbinic obligation, and one is a biblical one. I'm asking you just for consistency. I started asking you in the beginning, come learn with me the rest of the year, not just tonight. And I'm asking you for the rest of the year. As you learn with me, you'll realize that by sticking to the Shulchan Aruch, your life will get easier, but it also will become more consistent. The things that we do are always the same. We follow halachot always the same. We're not looking here for leniencies and there for stringencies. We're just busy trying to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked us to serve Him. And with that, I'm going to wish everybody a beautiful night. Thank you so much for learning Torah with me tonight.